the update in the MiLaysia Fulwiley saga. She has entered the transfer portal as of last week. The update today, she has added a do not contact tag to that. Jared, I know we made our predictions earlier for where she might go, but what does this extra element of maybe getting closer to an agreement mean?
I mean, it definitely adds some nuance to the situation because, of course, our heads go wild with where can MiLaysia go. The do not contact tag indicates she's probably already whittled down her list, and it's probably a very small list considering she's not taking callers. As far as what it means, I mean, who can really know? Like we said earlier in the days of the transfer portal.
Welcome back to South Carolina Sideline, everyone. Happy to be here with you today. I'm Claire Foley, joined alongside Jared Parker. We have a lot to talk about with you today. But first, before we get into that, just want to remind everyone to make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all the things. You can watch us if you prefer to visually watch your podcast. You can find us on YouTube at SC Sideline. If you want to listen while you're driving to work or in the gym, anything like that, you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple, you name it, we're there. And if you want to find us on Instagram, we're there too, also at SC Sideline. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all the things. Want you to stay updated with us because things are happening fast in the sports world.
Getting hot.
A lot has happened in the last week, Jared, especially in the women's basketball world, especially here in Columbia. So let's kick it off with probably the biggest story of the week, and that was MiLaysia Fulwiley announcing that she's entering the transfer portal. We've had new developments in that even today, but Jared, first, let's start with your reaction just hearing the news that MiLaysia is looking elsewhere.
I mean, I know it was something that had been rumored up to this point, but it really was the ultimate shock seeing that news come out. We know that with Tania Latson coming in and Raven Johnson returning, MiLaysia Fulwiley probably would have seen another year coming off the bench, which isn't a huge deal in Dawn Staley's system. But the fact that once that news came, it just hit like a knife in the heart. Like, wow, she's actually leaving, especially her being a Columbia kid. She was the last person anyone would have thought would leave. You grow up in Columbia, you grow up seeing Dawn Staley in South Carolina, and it was a surreal moment. It took a couple hours to really kick in like, wow, we are probably not seeing her on this team next year. Now, obviously with the transfer portal, technically she still could come back. Sure. That's not out of the question, but yeah, it was just such a surreal moment. I had no clue, no expectation of it happening, and it came so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. In the world of the transfer portal today, anything certainly is possible. But like you said, her being a hometown kid, I know for sports director Matt Dowell, he's been covering MiLaysia since she was in high school. Yeah. So they've worked together a lot in recent years. So it was a lot for him. We're also sending our well wishes to sports director Matt Dowell. He had a minor surgery this morning, but all is good. He'll be back joining us soon, getting some much needed rest and recovery. But back to MiLaysia. Yeah, definitely someone that grew up here, thought it was the story. Like, of course she would come to South Carolina. Of course she would become this huge name like an Asia Wilson here. Mm-hmm. And today's age in basketball, she's looking elsewhere. Obviously, neither of us have talked to her about what it is she's exactly looking for in this next move. But if we're going to look into our crystal ball, maybe see some things that might make sense for her, some teams that might make sense for her, where do you see maybe she might be landing?
Man, I know this might be a little crazy. I mean, it would be a big shift. We've got the battle of the USCs next year coming up between South Carolina and Southern Cal. And I kind of like Southern Cal for her. I know some people have said, well, Juju Watkins is ball dominant. MiLaysia, she likes to have the ball in her hands. I think it could work out, though. Southern Cal, they lost a lot to the transfer portal, which obviously is not great for them. But that means there's a lot of minutes on the line right there. MiLaysia could have the chance to go there and play the 35 minutes a game because ultimately I think that's what every player wants, and it's not really something you're going to have the chance to get with South Carolina. There's just too much talent. You're lucky if you play 23 minutes a game. So USC, Southern Cal right now absolutely has everything open right now for MiLaysia Fulwiley to come in there, play those 30, 35 minutes a game, and then pair with Juju Watkins when she gets back.
I think there are a lot of things both on and off the court that would make sense about that landing. Obviously, on the court, Juju's down with an ACL tear. She might not play at all next year.
Right.
So someone like MiLaysia coming in and filling a role similar to that could be exactly what that team needs. And then off the court, the location, being in California. MiLaysia, she's a nationwide name at this point. So putting her in a state like California, not too far from the Hollywood lights, I feel like that could work out too.
She definitely have a chance to shine. I will say, like you said, the fans love her everywhere. I still feel like South Carolina fans should maybe hold out and hope for a return. Like I said, it's not impossible. I don't know if I'm being a little bit delusional in saying that and feeding delusions by saying that, but when you mention, the Hollywood lights and whatnot and MiLaysia's merch, all the deals she has, I don't think anyone's going to support her more than the South Carolina fans. I find a really hard time seeing her going elsewhere and getting that same love just because, like we said, she is a hometown kid. So I feel like MiLaysia should maybe have in the back of her mind, hey, it's still okay to return to South Carolina. Transfer portal, it's just free agency. It doesn't
just testing the waters.
Just testing the waters. Will it happen? Probably not. But so I might be feeding delusions here, but I think she should have that in her mind.
Hey, it's definitely still an option. I know that at least Gamecock fans would welcome her back with open arms. I don't think they're turning their backs on her at all with any oh, you abandoned us.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anything like that, especially because MiLaysia grew up here. Like, I think the fans take a lot of pride in her as well.
Absolutely.
Like, she is one of their products. She represents this state, this city. So I think wherever she lands, that team will have a lot of South Carolina fans.
Oh, yeah.
Following with MiLaysia. Now, sticking with women's basketball, but it's a big night for the next level. And we've got some Gamecocks that are trying to make it into the next level. The WNBA draft is tonight. We're recording this on Monday. So ahead of it all, we've got Te-Hina Paopao, Bree Hall, and Sania Feagin all hoping that their names will be called. Jared, what do you think about these three trying to make that step to the next level?
I'm really excited to see these three go on to that next level, especially for Paopao. I just love her journey, how, she was with Oregon, found a home at South Carolina, and I think she is pro ready. She shoots like a pro. We've seen that for sure. I think she can kind of bring that point guard, combo guard style that a lot of teams playing this positionless basketball would love to have her at any spot. As far as Feagin and Bree Hall, I've seen... you look at all the mocks and see where Feagin can go. I've seen some projecting her to the Aces. We don't know if that's going to happen, but I know that would be an incredible opportunity
for sure
for her to play under A'ja Wilson. But wherever she goes, I like Feagin as a big in this draft. I think she's one of the best bigs in the draft, and I think she definitely, her rookie season, I think she can provide a spark off the bench. And as far as Bree Hall, we'll see where she goes. Didn't get an invite to the draft, but 3-and-D, that's what she brings. And in today's era of basketball, I find it hard to believe that if she doesn't put in the work, she won't find a team. I think she definitely can.
Absolutely. And I think all three have something to offer at the next level. I don't look at any of them and say, I don't know if they're ready. I don't know if they have what it takes. I think they each have something to bring. Obviously, you would probably, if you're ranking that three of most likely versus... I don't even want to say least likely because I think they all could find a spot, but I think Te-Hina Paopao is probably at the top of that list. She's been the bigger name, more flashy in terms of the threes, especially not this past season, but the season before that. But I really like the position that Sania Feagin is in heading into this turn. I think she had a fantastic senior year, and from talking to her in the locker rooms and stuff like that, she's just such a nice person, and it does make you root for her. But I really do like the way she has developed both in her game, but also in her leadership. She wanted to take that step up in her game for her senior year, and she worked for it, and she landed it, and she succeeded at it, and she became, from like a more quiet leader, she was having that presence. And I think that's exactly what you want to see in terms of an arc going from college to the pros. You want to see that peak in leadership and role on a team, and especially on a team like South Carolina, where they are so good and they are so deep. So I like where she is sitting heading into tonight. And obviously Bree, she's a star in her own right. She's got the personality, she's got the flash. I think she could fit well with different styles of play. I've really liked how her defense has developed, and that's something that she told us over the last year that she's taken a lot of pride in. So I'm excited to see what happens with these three. It's going to be an exciting night for women's basketball, and I'm sure that as today and the rest of the week go on, there's going to be even more news to come. So make sure you're staying updated with us. We're going to take our first break here on South Carolina Sideline. When we come back, we're talking Gamecock baseball and softball.
Welcome back to South Carolina Sideline. We've had a busy week of Gamecock athletics with both baseball and softball. Starting with baseball, going to Texas A&M. I mean, they started the weekend out okay. They lost in extra innings by a run, but then it just devolved into chaos, a 17-run loss, and then obviously that last game blowing a 10-run lead. Claire,
heartbreak after heartbreak.
What do you make of that? That's just insane.
I know. It's hard to say that there are some bright spots to take away from the weekend. Maybe I'm an optimist in that way, but I do think there were. Obviously, this Texas A&M team, we knew going into it that they are hot right now. They started in a similar way to South Carolina in that they struggled in conference play to start the year. They just happened to start peaking at the time that South Carolina was rolling into town. The week prior, they took on a top Tennessee team and won the series and did it in epic fashion with huge offense. And that's exactly what we saw from the Aggies again this weekend. Obviously, in game one, South Carolina was in it. I mean, forced extra innings for just the second time this season. And it was the relief pitching that kind of gave it up. It was a solo shot in the bottom of the 10th from Brendan Sweeney. Obviously, you hate to be on the wrong side of an extra innings game, but that's one you can say, okay, we were in it. Our offense showed up to at least put, I forget the final score off the top of my head, but 5, 6, 7-ish runs on the board. Pretty good against a team that you know is hot offensively in the Aggies. Okay, push that off. We're on to game two. And game two.
That was rough.
17-0 loss. And Coach Paul Maneri has said all year long he likes to have this midnight rule. That once it hits midnight, whether they won a close game, lost a close game, lost like they did in this one, turn the page. Forget about it. That was yesterday. We need to focus on the next game ahead, whether it's that day or a couple days ahead. And on Saturday for game 3, in the pregame show for the radio call, they talked to Coach Maneri and they said to him, I know you have this 12-hour or 24-hour rule that at midnight you have to turn the page. How do you ask this team to forget something like that? And he said, honestly, I hope they don't. I hope they remember this. He's like, I hope they're embarrassed. And he used that word. He's like, I don't use that word lightly. He's like, I hope they are embarrassed about what happened, both for themselves and their team, but for the school. He's like, I have a lot of pride in wearing this jersey and them wearing this jersey and representing this school. And he joked when they asked about, this game. And he's like, was it a game today? Because I don't think we showed up.
Wow.
He did not mince words. And so I think on Saturday then, to close out the series, you saw some of that.
Yeah.
They had the fight in them.
They looked inspired.
And I'm sure they were. I'm sure there were some conversations between the coaching staff and those players that got some motivation and inspiration into them. And you were seeing that. And you were seeing some defensive plays. And you were seeing guys who needed to step up, stepping up. Dalton Mayshore. Mm-hmm. He's not been a name that he's not an Ethan Petrie on this team where you expect consistency, something like that. He was 4 for 10 this weekend and had some really clutch hits. Evan Stone had some really clutch hits. And especially when Nathan Hall goes down for injury, your best hitter on this team. And South Carolina has been bit by the injury bug all year long. So in those ways, yes, there were some bright spots offensively. And if you take it from the season as a whole, that's what you've been waiting for, is some guys to step up and draw some hits and base hits and walk, a lot of walks this weekend too. And definitely something that they took advantage of, the Aggies starting to make mistakes and starting to lose control out there. But that's exactly what you needed from the offense and what you've been waiting, as earlier in the season, the pitching was there. And so now it's just trying to draw all three phases together. Obviously, it was in negative epic fashion this weekend where you saw kind of a flip-flop. But there's still a lot of games left to play. Baseball is a long season. There's a long way to go. But it's not going to get any easier. They have Ole Miss coming to town, number 11 ranked right now. And that's just how the SEC is.
Yeah.
But I think, and Paul Mainieri said it after the game on Saturday, that was a character game. They saw the fight from the day before, used that, got to move forward.
Now, I have got to ask, because I'm glad you bring up the point of the SEC being a tough conference. I mean, it is a tough conference to win, and there are so many good baseball teams. And like you said, it does not get easier, but I kind of see it as a blessing and a curse what Ray Tanner brought to South Carolina, because he brought a great winning culture with the things he did in his time leading, but also for coaches following him. These South Carolina fans, they hate losing. They expect to win every game no matter what, and we've seen that. We've seen them kind of freak out after losing to really, really good teams. So for those who are kind of hitting the panic button on Paul Mainieri right now, are you saying, what are you saying on that? Do we need to wait a little before we hit that panic button?
I think there's no such thing as a moral victory in Gamecock fans' eyes, which is fine.
That's true.
They want to win. They have a standard of excellence, which 100% should be the goal and should be the baseline. And I'm sure Paul Mainieri would say that is too. And he has said himself that this team has come short of their expectations. 20-17 is not his expectation. That is below his expectation. But what I know about Paul Mainieri specifically is he knows this game.
Yeah.
He is not in his 40th season for no reason.
Right.
And which is why I am never going to question a coaching move or anything like that, because he knows baseball better than I ever will. And so in that way, and especially in how college sports in general, but college baseball is right now, there's a lot that has changed since he was last a head coach, which he has talked about. And there's a lot that is still changing in the moment. NIL has played a huge part in that. And then there are also the things that South Carolina has just fallen on their luck in terms of the injuries. I mean, we saw Dylan Eskew back on Sunday after really just a freak accident thing.
Crazy.
He hasn't played since Oklahoma after he was due to make a start on Sunday, and Saturday he got hit in the head with a ball during batting practice, and while he got hit in the head, he like tweaked his oblique a little bit, so then was out with an oblique injury and the head injury. Just freak things. Obviously, he lost Eli Jerzenbeck at the beginning of the year. You really thought he was going to be your dude this year. Talmadge Lecroy going to be out for the year. He was someone that they needed to step up, and he really was early on. So hate that for him. He'll, as Coach Maneri said, he'll have to decide if he wants to strap on the cleats another year next year, but he's going to be done for the year. And just things along the way that just have not gone as they have expected. But with baseball specifically, you can't take it game by game or series by series. Like if you see a Friday night where they lose 17-0, yeah, you're going to throw your hands up in the air and say this is over. But you can't follow a team and follow a sport like baseball just by the box score.
Yeah.
So I think that there are some things to take away as positives from this weekend. And like Coach Maneri said, is you got to turn the page and look forward, and let's see what they do from here. Let's see what they do about it.
Now, you talk about obviously you can't follow by the box score. Shifting over to softball, lost the series against a really good Arkansas team this weekend. Their first series loss since Oklahoma. Even though they lost the series, they had a rough go that first game, getting run ruled. But, I mean, the box score doesn't completely reflect how well they did play against a really good Arkansas team. What do you make of that series? What does it mean?
Yeah, going in, pretty evenly matched team. I mean, it depends on which rankings you were looking at. South Carolina coming in as the number 10, number 11, Arkansas, number 11, number 12. So pretty evenly matched in terms of the rankings. On the road, obviously, that adds another element to it. But one thing about this South Carolina team all year long has been when one phase of their game hasn't been on, the others have picked them up. So if pitching hasn't been going their way, they have a great defense and a great offense to support that. And we saw that some this weekend. In the first game, pitching was starting to go, and unfortunately, offense wasn't necessarily there that first game. They had the first 2 runs in the first 2 innings. And then that was it. And that's something that we really haven't seen a lot this year, is that when one is cold, another area starts to go too. They've usually been able to pick each other up. And talking with the team last week, I had a chance to sit down with pitcher Sam Gress, and she said that's because they don't play to the scoreboard. They just play their game and know what they have to do. And I think you saw some of that start to turn around as the series went on. Sam, she didn't have a great day in the first game of the series, but the next day she came in and she turned it around. And that's the ability to turn the page and trust your stuff, and trust what the team as a whole is able to do, and trust the people around you to pick you up when you're not having your best game. And the offense really showed up the next 2 games. I mean, Carly Shelton has just been incredible all year. I looked at her stats earlier. She only has 11 strikeouts this entire season.
Wow.
She had 5 hits in the series this weekend. Ella Chansey had 4. Definitely people that South Carolina softball has leaned on and will continue to lean on. So, yeah, they don't come out with a series win, but they're still probably a top 15 team. Rankings haven't come out for this next week yet. Like I said, they were at number 10. They'll probably fall back a spot or 2 after this one, but definitely nothing to worry about here. I know that when the season started, they started 20-0 or whatever it was, and people were like, oh, that's non-conference play. Are they the real deal? They have shown by this point. They are the real deal.
For sure.
I don't take too much out of a series loss. They were in it. And so just get ready for the next one. They have a Clemson, again, coming up this week.
Well, yeah, they've definitely looked good, and I think they're going to continue to look good. Like you said, they're the real deal, so they just got to keep doing what they've been doing to have success until the postseason comes around. We're going to take a quick break right here, one last break, but when we come back, we're going to revisit the WNBA draft, including the biggest superstar headed into draft night.
Welcome back to South Carolina Sideline. Okay, before we go, we teased it for you earlier, the update in the MiLaysia Fulwiley saga. She has entered the transfer portal as of last week. The update today, she has added a do not contact tag to that. Jared, I know we made our predictions earlier for where she might go, but what does this extra element of maybe getting closer to an agreement mean?
I mean, it definitely adds some nuance to the situation because, of course, our heads go wild with where can MiLaysia go. The do not contact tag indicates she's probably already whittled down her list, and it's probably a very small list considering she's not taking callers. As far as what it means, I mean, who can really know, like we said earlier in the days of the transfer portal, but I think we're definitely nearing a decision. Usually when we see that do not contact tag, that means whether it's, I mean, it could be 5 minutes from now, it could be 2 days from now, but she probably has her mind made up on where she's set to head.
And like we said, with the transfer portal, you never know, because also last week, Sakima Walker entered the portal, and she said that she had a do not contact tag, but then a few days later, she took that back.
Right.
So things can change. Teams can make different decisions. Players can make different decisions. I know you said we're anxiously waiting for updates. We've got tweet notifications on, waiting for announcements one way or another, but definitely excited to see any update to the MiLaysia Fulwiley situation. But sticking with women's basketball, again, obviously, like we said, WNBA draft is tonight, just a few hours from now. We do think we have a good idea who's going number one overall. It's appearing to be Paige Bueckers. No surprise. I know Dallas is seemingly building up excitement to call her name tonight. Mm-hmm. They just tweeted an update like, 5 hours to to an update. Obviously, number 5 being Paige's number. And also, just yesterday, it was announced that Paige would have a 3-year deal with Unrivaled. Someone like that who has been a name in women's basketball for years. How does getting that little bit of extra viewing and spotlight help the sport of women's basketball?
Well, I definitely think it shows how big of a brand that Paige has, but not just that. It shows the potential for brand building for all women's basketball stars. The fact that Paige is doing this, that before she even signs a WNBA contract, she's signing an Unrivaled contract. The hype that Dallas is building up. We saw their general manager going crazy when they got the number 1 pick. It just seems like right now in the basketball world, all eyes are on Paige. We've seen her going around with wearing the net, and this is not just something that can only apply to Paige. This can apply to everyone coming up after her. We talk about MiLaysia. This is something that MiLaysia could look like. So I think what Paige is doing, obviously it's great for her own brand and it's great for her future career, but it's bigger than herself. We're really seeing the type of brands that these stars can create because they are superstars.
Absolutely. Definitely going to be an exciting night for Paige Bueckers, the 3 South Carolina Gamecocks that are hoping to hear their names called: Te-Hina Paopao, Bree Hall, Sania Feagin, and of course, still waiting for updates with MiLaysia Fulwiley. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of South Carolina Sideline. Whether you are watching with us on YouTube or listening wherever you get your podcasts, we're happy to have you here, and we hope you will join us again next week. Until then, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all the things. You can find us on Instagram too at SC Sideline. But we'll leave you here. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again next week.